welcome to the show. My name is Bonnie Kortemaj of Bonnie's Travel, a small home-based travel agent right here in Seekonk. I chose the name Travel Bits for this show because I'd like to offer up bits of my experiences, my knowledge, and my travel point of view in hopes that you'll gain some knowledge that would aid you in your upcoming travel. This first show that we're doing, I decided to do it on multi-generational travel. There's lots of reasons to travel with the family, the whole family, be it destination weddings, anniversaries, vow renewals, just family vacations, graduations, things like that. It was while I was healing with a broken leg and being a little depressed and had a big birthday coming up, you know, the ones that end in a 0. So my husband said, let's take a nice big family trip and just invite the whole family. So that's what I decided to start working on. So when you're planning a vacation with lots of people involved, you have to consider who's going and how to make it fit for everyone. Such as when you're traveling with seniors, when you're choosing a destination or a resort, you need to make sure that there's elevators or 24-hour food available for when they need to take medication. And you also want them to be happy and occupied, because the seniors, they don't just sit on the beach all day and suntan like the younger folk. There's always nice to have some kind of activities planned that they can participate in, whether it's bingo on the beach or salsa lessons or language classes that they have at these resorts. Also, on the other end of the spectrum, when you're traveling with little kids, you need to make sure that the room can accommodate cribs, that there's separate kiddie pool areas for them, swing sets, play area. Does the resorts have an entertainment staff that will help keep the kids occupied? Are there kids clubs, which are supervised daycare, so you have a little bit of alone time? So there's all kinds of decisions to be made on your location and resort that you would like to go to. My preferred way of vacationing is an all-inclusive resort, because I feel that it offers everything that you would want in a vacation, because everything's taken care of. You've already paid everything up front, so there's no surprises, so you can sit back and relax. One of my favorite destinations is the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic is very easy to access for us here on the East Coast. Most of the airlines fly there. You can get there easily from Providence, from Boston, from Manchester, from Bradley Airport in Connecticut. So it's a desirable location, and it's also a great bang for the buck. So with considering everybody that was traveling, it was my dad and his lady, my husband, myself, our 4 children, 2 spouses, and 3 grandchildren. I had chosen a resort in the Dominican. At the time, it was called the Barcelo Punta Cana. So let's have the first slide. So when considering how we were going to get to the airport, because we had a very early flight leaving out of Boston's Logan Airport, we thought the best route would be this party bus. It accommodated all of us in our suitcases very easily. Everybody left their cars and parked at my house, and we got on the bus, and we had some breakfast. We had donuts and some juice, and some of the kids took naps, and the point was we were all together. Nobody was late, nobody's bags got left behind. We were all together. We started the trip together. And so we made it to the airport. Next slide, please. Here's the whole crew heading to the airport. We're all pretty excited, even though it was still very early in the morning. Next slide. A little bit of shenanigans, sitting waiting for the plane. You can see out in the back, it's pretty dark, so it was a very early morning flight. The thing with a lot of these flights, especially if you're leaving on a weekend, it is normally early morning flights, and it's best to always arrive at the airport, especially if you're going out of the country, 3 hours ahead of time. The reason for this is, especially the first flights, they're never late because the plane's already there from the night before. And with security lines and getting that large group through security, it takes some time, compounded by everybody else who's leaving on a trip that same day. So get to the airport, get through security, and then you can sit and relax. You can grab some breakfast. You get comfortable before your flight. Next slide. So when you're on the plane, especially if you're heading to a tropical destination as we were, and going to another country, they will be passing out forms while you're on the plane. You have custom forms and immigration forms. It's best to fill out these forms while you're on the plane because you're just sitting there. So fill out the forms and keep them handy with your passport, tucked away somewhere where they're easy to get to when you get off the plane. Another thing about when you're landing in a tropical destination like this, as you can see, you are exiting from these rolling stairways and not the jetways that we're used to here in the United States. So one thing you need to consider when you are traveling is whether you want to check your bags, or if you want to, if you're doing a carry-on suitcase, that you need to maneuver it down. You need to actually carry it down these stairs. You can't roll your bags down. You actually have to physically carry them down the stairs. Also, another thing is you might occasionally deal with weather as you're walking, outside on the, off the plane. So people with mobility issues, it's also something to consider. I know in Punta Cana, they have two different gates. Gate A is the older gate where now you go off these rolling stairways, and you are loaded onto a bus and then taken to the building, to the gate, where the gate B is the newer one. It's only accessed by some airlines. They do have the jetways like what we're used to. If someone does have mobility issues, the staff at the Punta Cana airport is very helpful and will assist, if not carry you down the stairs. So no need for that. That shouldn't deter you from visiting here at all. Next. So we finally make it to the resort, and we're all checked in. And check-in time at these resorts is normally 3 o'clock. And they are sticklers for that 3 o'clock. There is no wiggle room when it comes to checking in early. They do not let you in until after 3. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 5. So sometimes it's best to just pack your bathing suit in your carry-on bag. And then that way, as soon as you check in, you'll get your bracelet, and you're free to go grab some food at the buffet. You can head to the pool, you can head to the bar, you can head to the beach. So after a long day of travel, my granddaughters were more than ready to head to the pool right away. Next. Here's everybody just mad dash. We want to get to the pool. We need to cool off. There's quite a difference. We went in October, I believe, and so the temps here were getting on the cool side, and when you walk off the plane in the Dominican, you're hit with heat, humidity, beautiful 80, 90-degree weather, which is bathing suit weather and not jeans and sweatshirts. So you do want to get changed and cooled off as soon as possible. Next. Here is the, I chose this resort because it had this wonderful kiddie area that the kids could, the smaller kids could play in. My granddaughters were 4 and 5, and my grandson was 6 months old at the time. So this was a great area for them. The water is clean. It maybe comes up to an adult's knees. So, I mean, they still require supervision, but they had a blast. Next. Again, this was the depth of the kiddie area of the pool. Next. Having fun. It is stressed that you should wear head protection, sunscreen, T-shirts, SPF shirts. Please make sure you get all this stuff and bring it with you because it's very expensive trying to buy this stuff at the resort. Sunscreen can run $20, $30 easy, where Walmart, you know, you get the no-ad stuff for pretty cheap. Next. There's some crew. We are swimming it up in the pool, having a great time. The most resorts have an activity pool where they have games as far as water polo and water volleyball and water aerobics, and then there's usually another pool that's just for swimming and relaxing by. And usually the activity pools have loud music playing. This one here had a swim-up bar, which is desirable for that added bit of fun. Next slide. Here's some morning aerobics or water games. Next slide. And here's some more water fun. That's Grandpa and his 2 granddaughters. Next slide. Goofy kids. As you can see, the majority of the people in my crew they're all wearing hats, which is, again, very important. I can't stress that enough in this day and age of sun. Hats, sunscreen, cover up as much as possible. Next. Next. There's little Spencer getting in on the fun in the pool. Next. And that's Grandpa and granddaughter. We spent the majority, the days started taking on a form of we would all get up on our own because we all get up at different times during the day. We get up and have breakfast on our own, usually down at the buffet. And then we would head to the beach and we would pick a certain area at the beach, and people would, the rest of the crew would find their way, and we'd spend the morning at the beach. In the afternoons, at lunchtime, we would migrate over to the pool restaurant for a quick and easy lunch, burgers, sandwiches, things like that, and just spend the afternoon by the pool. Next slide. More pool time fun. Next slide. My glamour girl. Next slide. Another glamour girl. Next slide. Next slide. Here's our beach area that we had set up. As you can see, there are, on the beaches, they have palapas, which are those straw coverings, like a big beach umbrella. And otherwise, there is palm trees. So that's another thing to consider when you're looking at resorts. You want to make sure that there's enough shade for you, especially if you're spending the time at the beach. Make sure there's enough shade on the beach, and that you can research online to find pictures of the beach to find out if that's going to accommodate you. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Is our little mermaids playing in the sand. That's Gracie and Christina. We made the mermaids. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. The water is unbelievably beautiful. You can see your toes when you're in the water. It's warm. It's not like here in New England where you have to slowly inch your way in. You just walk right in. It's beautiful, beautiful temperatures. When you're carried up in a wave, you can actually see your whole body through the wave. If you're up on the shore, you can see the people. You can see their whole body through the waves. Next slide. And of course, with sun comes nap. Next slide. On these resorts, there's all kinds of activities going on. You can do, there's banana boat rides, there's parasailing. The girls took this tubing ride. There are paddle boats that you can use. You can go snorkeling. You have those little sunfish sailboats that you can take out. There's not a shortage of things to do. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. The pools normally shut down around 6 o'clock. All the pools shut down. They close them, they chlorinate them, they clean them for the next day. So that's usually the time that we would go for dinner. We go for dinner at an a la carte restaurant, or if we had the reservations, or the buffet. Usually at most resorts, between say 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock, there's a little bit of a lull in the activities, only because the entertainment shows, they normally don't start until after 9 o'clock. It gives the people from, say, 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock to be ready for dinner, to have a relaxing dinner, to have a cocktail before dinner, to have an after-dinner cocktail. So it's a little bit of a boring time for the kids, because really there isn't too much going on. The entertainment staff is normally, after they've already worked all day, they're having a little bit of a break, grabbing some food, getting ready for their nightly show. So you need to keep that in mind when traveling with the youngsters. As you can see here, there's coloring books and crayons and plenty to keep the kids occupied during that time. Next slide. We're waiting for dinner. Next slide. Most of the restaurants do accommodate. They were able to accommodate all 11 of us in most of the a la carte restaurants. And in the Dominican, please note that gentlemen need to wear slacks in the a la carte restaurants. In the buffet, the shorts are acceptable. Their general rule in the Dominican is gentlemen need to wear slacks. They can wear polo shirts or t-shirts, but it's slacks for dinner. Next slide. There's the whole crew. Next slide. And the crew again. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. I'm reliving so many of these fun and happy memories as I'm looking at these pictures because my dad is no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago. So this vacation that we took, it really brought us closer. When you're traveling with family, you're traveling with people that you see all the time. So you're reliving these memories that you've made over and over. This has been quite a few years later, 7 years since we've taken this trip, and there isn't many occasions that go by that something about this vacation has been brought up. Oh, remember this, or remember that, or wasn't this funny? And as we're telling Gracie and Christina and Spencer about their vacation, trying to revive their memories and just to tell them some of the things that we had done, it's a lot of fun. So you just keep reliving it, and the memories are precious. Next slide. Pretend sleeping. Next slide. Real sleeping. Next slide. So again, when you're leaving the Dominican, you're leaving pretty much the same way that you came in. You are rolling your bags, or you're taking the bus out to the tarmac, and you're climbing the stairs with your suit, with all your travel bags to get on the plane. You do, again, consider either checking your bag, or if you're able to carry. I know nowadays people want to save on those baggage fees, so they will pack a carry-on. Just keep that in mind for travel. Make sure it's safe and it's something easy that you can handle. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Again, we're at the airport. This is probably, I believe this is the layover. Oh no, I see the palapas in the back. So this is inside the Dominican airport. There are shops and restaurants in the airport, so you can grab some food for your flight home, and last-minute souvenirs if you panicked and wanted to wait and ran out of time. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. A long trip. This picture tells it all. It was a good trip. It was a fun trip. And before you know it, the trip is over. All the planning, all the excitement of the upcoming trip it's over, and you're left with just the memories, as precious as they are. And then it's time to start planning your new trip, your next trip. I know that's what I do on the plane ride home. I'm saying, where should we go next? Well, that's it. I hope you learned something. I hope I offered some helpful tips to you. This was my first show. I am a little nervous as this is totally new to me. I welcome your comments, your opinions, your suggestions. You can find me on Facebook under Bonnie's Travel, or I have a website, and that website is www.bonniestravelsite.com. You can contact me there. All my contact information is there. And I look forward to seeing you again. Safe and happy travels. Thank you.